And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Now, I'll let you guys all know right now, I had a lot of fun in Denver. It's arguably one of the best experiences I've ever had in this hobby. It was one of those true times that you're never gonna forget. So, what I'm gonna do on today's video is I'm gonna just talk about my experiences going to the going to Collectacon Denver. How did it compare to Leonhardt pop-up shop? That's going to be real quick. The people I met, the conversations we had, what was the event actually like for me? And then at the end of this stream, after everything's all said and done, I do want to touch a little bit and just kind of talk a little bit about PokeRev's most recent Deoxys box break because it was a little lackluster of a box break. And I just think that's like a good conversation overall. And then just some updates on where some videos my channel is going to have, coming up in the future because I got like a pretty big PSA return coming back that has like two pretty awesome type of cards. So I'm going to talk about that. But with that said, first thing we got to talk about is just the Denver Collecticon. My God, I had expectations, right? And my biggest fear was that the expectations I would have for an event it would never be able to live up to it. And if you were to just take the event, I think at face value, like all the traveling I did not being a vendor, it might have been maybe a little rough, but the community completely makes up for any of that. And like the people I met, like all the things we did. So first off, my flight there, it got changed. My flight was originally scheduled for 7 a.m. and got rescheduled for 9 p.m. on Friday, the day going in. So I had to change my flight. I ended up like going into Vegas, then taking a layover in Vegas to head to Denver. I didn't get to Denver till 5 p.m. Denver time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern time. After I'd already been at the airport since 7 a.m., I got up at 4 a.m. So by this point, I'm just super tired from ton of flying, but that's okay. When I got to the hotel, Pokemon Classics had already been waiting for me, and he was waiting to go to Swami's house because Swami was doing a little like trade night get together with a bunch of people from mainly the Pokenomics Discord and Professor Oak's Discord, and just some people through different, YouTube channels, different chat groups. So Friday night, we all went to Swami's house, and I can't say enough about Swami. He really stepped up. He made a great event for everybody. He was super generous. He opened up his house. It was a lot of fun. And just walking through the door first, like meeting, Pokemon Classics for the first time, because I literally got to the hotel, went upstairs, brushed my teeth, like reapplied deodorant. Then I was back downstairs. So I had been on a plane all day, in airports all day, but it was still worth it. So just seeing Pokemon Classics for the first time, because it's this weird thing. You see people all the time. You talk to people like pretty consistently. Pokemon Classics has been a guest on my channel. We've had him on more than once. I had a one-on-one interview where I really got to pick his brain, ask him about his backstory in the hobby. Then he was part of that mega live stream I had where we had like all those PokeTubers, and he was one of the people that were on there. So to actually see him in person, to like look at him face to face, it's like this kind of weird, surreal moment because it's definitely that feeling that you know somebody, and even though you've never met in person, and it's weird, and I don't know how they explain it, and but you just have that feeling. So, anyways, that was just what it was like meeting him. But as soon as I walked through the door at Swami's house on the Friday night trade night, it's Connor Rock Pokemon standing there at the table, and then there was Rob Red and Blue, and then who was the third person standing at the table when I walk in? I forget. I know who it was, whoever it was. But either way, I walk in and I already know Connor, but I already recognize Rob. So, like, you already know all the people in there. And then, we chatted for a little bit, and then I walk out back. And the first person I see as soon as like I start walking down the stairs is, Mason from Cardinal Gaming. And then I look quickly to my right, and then you have Dan Catchmall Collectibles and Jake from Pokenomics. And then it was almost like playing like a little bit of a Where's Waldo game, because while I may know everyone just through their names in the chat and stuff like that, I didn't know everybody immediately by their faces. Really, the people I only knew from immediate facial recognition are the people that obviously have channels, have a little bit of a presence. So as I'm scanning the crowd, I'm like recognizing all these people I know. And again, this is that super weird feeling because you feel like you already know all these guys. And in a way, I guess I do. Like Swami's been on my channel twice. We've had 2 interviews one-on-one. And so I obviously like felt like I already know him. Mason's been on my channel multiple times. Jake's been on my channel multiple times. It's just it's a weird feeling. And I don't know how to explain it unless you could experience it. Maybe you've experienced it in like other parts, maybe in your work and career. If you have another person that works at another satellite office and you talk to them all the time over the phone or all the time over emails, and maybe you get to know them on a personal level, even though you're work partners or whatever. But when you do meet them at like a work holiday party, you see them for the first time, it's a little bit of the surreal feeling. So maybe it's a little bit like that, but probably not quite. So Friday night was just this crazy time. I mean, talk about people with the same goals in mind, like-minded people, and everybody's just super nice. There wasn't a single person there. And in fact, there wasn't a single person at my entire time, all the days included, that I disliked. I liked every person I met. And just sitting at the table, there was so much product to open, so many packs to open. Just the conversations that were taking place. The conversations were exactly what you thought they would be. The conversations were all about Pokemon, all about trading card games. It was yeah, it was crazy though. And sitting at the table, you should have seen Swami's table by the end of the night. It was absolutely completely full of different stuff. Like whether it was Harry Potter or Pokemon or I don't even know. There was some MetaZoo out there. Everybody was opening everything, and then people were still trickling in, like later in the night. You know, Basic Trainer rolled in with Queen MetaZoo, Ivy, and again, 2 people that I've already know, been on my channel multiple times. Basic really was the only person there, with the exception of Connor Rock Pokemon. Pikachu was there. I had met him there. DNA was there. I'd maybe met him in uh, the Leonhardt Pop Shop down in Florida. But when me and DNA met, we had no sort of relationships like we do now, where we were extremely familiar with each other. When I met DNA down at the Leonhardt Pop Shop, that was the first time I ever met him. So all these people just being there, it's just it's so surreal. And then I ended up opening up. I brought 1 pack to open at Swami's trade night, and I brought a EX Power Keepers. And I'm going to release that video, so I won't tell you guys what I pulled. I was lucky to at least pull a hollow or better. Does that really narrow it down for Power Keepers? No, but I got to at least keep a little bit of, intrigue for a pack I open like that. And then obviously we were all just, doing a normal thing you would do at a party. We're just drinking and having fun, and everybody's just chatting. And we were actually the last group to leave, like the little group that I was with. And yeah, it obviously turns up at the end of the night. But I mean, I also one time drank 16 beers in front of a video that ended up having close to 6,000 views. So you could kind of like go in the understanding of what direction the night went there for me. But it was well planned out, right? It was exactly the way I wanted it to be. It was a lot of fun. And that was just the start. Like the event hasn't started at this point. We're just like, this is the tip of the iceberg, and you still have this huge iceberg underwater that no one could see yet. So then Saturday comes rolling along. I wake up, eat breakfast, head immediately to I didn't head immediately to the event. I definitely like took my time because I didn't want to get there like the first hour everybody was setting up. So the event started at 10 a.m. I was there by 11. And again, it was the same thing. When I got to the event, I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, is it going to be like super small? Is it not going to be what I expected? Is there not going to be as much, Pokemon cards? When I went to the event, I was just hoping there would be a lot of stuff that I could look at. So as soon as I walk in and I'm standing in line to get my VIP badge, right there sitting in front of me is Gary King Pokemon. So as I'm standing in line, Gary's talking to some other people, and then Gary, makes eye contact with me. I make eye contact with Gary. I walk up to him, and then Gary instantly recognized me, which again, that's a huge compliment. Even though Gary has been on my channel, more than once, to just see him in person, get to shake his hand and thank him for coming on my channel. And, you know, I instantly started talking to Gary just about like, some of the stuff he's done in the past and like some of the moves he's made and like how it affected the market, like in modern times. This is quick though, just real quick conversation. But I was like, talking about the things that he did before I was there and, some of the, you know, ripple effects it has now caused in the market. And, Gary agrees with me. Gary's not a fool by any sense of the imagination. Like Gary knew exactly what he's done and, is very in tune with a certain aspect of the hobby. Maybe not super engaged in like, the ultimate day to day, like you and I, when we talk about like all the modern sets and what are the modern chase cards and all this stuff. But Gary is very, he's not blind. He understands the market very well. So we had a great conversation there. And then as I go upstairs to where the actual event's being held, I walk through the door. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to catch my live stream. I tried to make a live stream where I walk through the event. But as I walked through that door for the first time, I was like overwhelmed. There was so many booths, so many people, so many cards, like just a quick scan of the room. And I'm just like, oh my God, how do I make it to every one of these booths? And there's obviously people standing around all these booths. And I'm just thinking, like, how do I look at all this stuff? And at the point when I walk in, like, yeah, I have some friends there already, the guys that were vending mainly that Pokenomics area, but I didn't even know how to make it to them yet. So as I walk through, it's immediately I'm just hit with the Heritage Auction booth. And then like that's the very first booth. As soon as you walk through the door, that's what you look at. So obviously I make my way immediately to the Heritage Auction booth. And as you get there, you look down in the case, and within the case, you have obviously like a bunch of first edition, starters from base set. But the first one that pulls your eyes is the Shadowless 10 Charizard. And then right below that to the left is the PSA 10 first edition Charizard. So cards that you very rarely, if ever, get to actually see in person. And that's just immediately what you're presented with as soon as you go down there. And then, right, believe it or not, immediately next to that PSA 10 first edition Charizard was the washing machine Charizard from Crystal Guardians, the one that Ivy accidentally put through the washing machine, became super viral on TikTok, got like millions of views, and they had a bunch of people sign it. And then that uh, slab is now going to be in the Heritage auction block, and it's going to go 100% of the proceeds are going to go to charity. But it's funny because you have this first edition PSA 10 Charizard, and then right next to it, you have Ivy's Pikachu. And the Ivy's Pikachu, I actually have held in my hands before because I held it in my hands when I was at the Leonhardt pop-up shop. I took a photo with it. So it kind of like, in a weird way, like everything is a big circle and everything brings it back. So I have like the Grail of Grails next to a card that I have physically held within my hands, so it is weird. It is a weird thing. It shows you that this hobby is super big, but at the same time, like it is a small hobby. And then again, you keep going through the Heritage booth, and then you look, and it's just mainly like their big premier auction items that they're going to have for this month. And then as you keep walking, just keep going to booth, and I'm just at this point like overwhelmed. You're Luckily, I'm relatively good at scanning cases, scanning cards. It's something I've done now for a long time, but mainly through eBay. And me scanning cards is mainly me doing this, just kind of swiping up on my phone, looking at eBay, whether it's items ending soonest, whether it's items newly listed, whether my search term is, you know, Shadowless Ninetales, or my search term is Pokemon, or it's Pokemon card, or it's trading card, or it's sealed pack, or it's Shadowless, or if it's Pokemon with different years, whether it's 2022, 2023, 24, 25, all the way up to 2007. Those are like the search terms I like to be, or just Pokemon Hollow, or sometimes I'll just search, a name of a character with a card number, so, or I'll just search Pokemon with a certain set. So maybe I'll just type in like, if I'm looking for, I don't know, whatever set that I'm looking for, and I'll just type in that, if I'm looking for Skyridge, I'll type in Pokemon 144, hoping that somebody didn't put Skyridge, hoping they put the Pokemon name, all these search terms. So I'm used to doing that, but never scanning the way I was and seeing all these graded cards. And now one of the good things is there were a lot of prices on a lot of stuff. Anybody who didn't have prices on their cards in these booths, it's a shame for them, because if people were like me, you are in a way overwhelmed because there's just so many cards, so much product, that you're going to glance over the ones that don't have prices, because you're probably just going to instantly assume that those cards maybe are priced too high or it's not worth it. So the prices do help. And advice I could give you is do not buy any cards at like the first booth you walk in for any of these events. Try to do your best to walk around, see what everybody's selling, because you probably, and especially if the cards you're going after are way more readily available, or maybe more modern cards, or not super, super nichey cards. If you're trying to complete your base set, hollow set 1 through 16, and that's what you went to the event for, like, trust me, there will be plenty of those cards in almost every single booth, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to walk around and shop around and really get that truly low price. But then you have a lot of those hollows that aren't going to be in every booth. And as you get to those and you start, right, one of the timelines of this hobby that I'm really going after is I've been going after a lot of Nintendo stuff. So really that starts off at 2003 with Ruby and Sapphire, and really it ends with me in like 2007/2008 timeline with Power Keepers. So the timeline I'm really looking at for cards is only like a 5-year timeline, and a lot of these are like the EX cards or reverse hollows. Especially a lot of the reverse hollows, like your Unseen Forces or your Deoxys, more, or Dragon Frontiers. I liked a lot of the stamp promos, but then I like it all, right? So those are the cards that I'm looking for, the stuff that I don't see every day. And as I'm walking through the event and I'm just looking at all these different booths, and then, occasionally you'll just come across like, oh, well, there you go. That's a, Charizard Gold Star in a PSA 10. Well, that's not a card you see every day. And then you keep walking, and then you'll come across something else, and it's just like, it's information overload too. And then while you're doing this, you're also walking with booths with just tons of raw cards. And then raw cards is the same thing. Luckily, most of, if not all of them, had prices on them. But then you go up to binders. And binders is something I love to flip through. I love to do it in my personal life. I love to do it at the event. So every booth that had a binder, I just love to flip through it. And then as you're flipping through the binder, you come across a lot of the stuff you expect. You come across a lot of just like regular uncommons, whether it's, base set jungle, fossil, and maybe you'll see some Team Rocket thrown there and some gyms and your Neos, but then you'll come across like your random expedition card, but then even less than that, you would see an Aquapolis or a Skyridge, or then you would keep flipping and then you would see some random Nintendo reverse hollows that I was just talking about, or you would get into some black and white stuff or stuff that I really like. So then as you're flipping through, and they stop. They catch your eye immediately when you come and you're flipping through, and even if it's the fucking Tornadus from Emergent Powers, we shit on Emergent Powers all the time, but as you're flipping through that binder, if there's a Tornadus full art from Emergent Powers, like, you stop and you look at it, because to be honest with you, while that might not be an expensive card, it's not a card you see all the time, but you're just doing this through binders, and your brain is just, it's using all its computing power, right? And I think a lot of it too was, you know, what makes you stop? And I talked about, like some of the cards during the live stream that I picked up, but I was just looking for, whatever I don't normally see, and then, trying to barter down, trying to get low prices. I wasn't really able to do that, as I was definitely playing way more hardball on Saturday with people than I was during the live stream. During the live stream, I pretty much just said, "What's your lowest price?" Because I don't know why, but at least when I was walking around on Saturday, like, people would have a sticker price, and I'd ask them for way lower. Like, I was able to get, like some jungle card, or not jungle, it's not jungle cards, rumble cards. I was able to pick up a no symbol Jolteon hollow. As soon as I picked it up, the guy was asking 26. I paid him 15. He definitely pulled up just normal unlimited comps. Paid $15 for a no symbol jungle card, and Zach Gem Mint Pokemon was sitting down at the table. So I walked up to him. I said, "Here you go, Zach. Like, I bought this for you because you're not gonna." buy a super cheap Jolteon, no symbol jungle hollow and have the biggest jungle no symbol hollow collector in the entire world sitting right next to you and not give them that card. So that was a very simple no brainer for me. But as you walk through all the booths, and it was actually kind of weird too, because I was a couple times recognized. I wasn't sure if a lot of people would recognize me just through my channel, or and obviously like all the Pokenomics guys knew who I was because I had hung out with them all the night before. So I wasn't really like, shocked by that. But like just walking through the floor and randomly somebody would come up, stop you and say, "Hey, are you PK? I really like your channel." That's pretty surreal to me because that doesn't happen in your normal life. Obviously, when you're in an area where there's a lot of people that are in this like YouTube Pokemon sphere that we live in, you are recognized. So that's always fun. And just having conversations with people. And one of the things that I heard a lot of people say, which I was actually pretty impressed by and pretty like humbled by, was a lot of people said, "I remember you from the meme days." Because obviously this channel did have a lot of the meme videos before I ever showed my face, before the live streams became a little bit more of the staple of this channel. So that was a lot of fun. But as you're walking through still, you're just seeing it's a sea of cards. It's an ocean. And, every single booth's priced differently. The selection is different. Some people were, heavy into vintage, some were heavy into modern, some was heavy into like PSA stuff, CGC. I did see a relatively large like amount of CGC cards. I will tell you right now, there is a huge price difference from PSA to CGC. And you could say what do you want. I know I bash on CGC all the time, but the price disparity, the price, like it was there. It was real. And there was just like one thing that every single booth had in common. Geez, every single booth had gold star dogs. Every one of them. It was just every booth had PSA 10 gold star sets, like every one of them. And that was just what was in their booths. And I'm curious, like sitting in the back behind them, if they just had some more gold stars from Unseen Forces, as soon as those sold, they were just going to throw more out there. And the prices that people had on them were actually, pretty expensive. But if you are a binder collector and you don't mind like true near mint stuff, if you don't care, like your card needs to be a 9, or it needs to be a 9 at a minimum, but honestly, you're looking for a 10. If that's not your thought process and you are just a binder collector, this event had some really low price, like binder worthy cards. If you don't care a little bit about like whitening on the back, as long as the front is visually appealing, there was a lot of those cards that were ungraded, prices very like competitively, like price to sell, cards that you probably wouldn't see every day, or at least if you did see them, you'd have to do and wait for shipping and all that. A lot of those cards were there. So if you guys are binder collectors, events like this could be like extremely fun for you. But as you continue to walk through the event, like the path I made, and then you walking by and you see all the people signing cards, like nobody there was really like, caught my eye as somebody that I would definitely want to have something signed. Like maybe the only person I would have even considered it was the guy that played Jason, the Red Rangers from the, early Power Rangers TV show. He was really the only one I was even relatively like interested in and get an autograph from, but I didn't. And then as you keep walking, there's a lot of different random TCGs there too, not just, Pokemon, but like people trying to push their new games. And then you keep walking around, and then there was like the little Whatnot area, which Whatnot had like a decent section in the center of the entire event. Like I would definitely say they were well positioned to kind of be in the center of the entire event. And like as you're walking through, there's people like opening packs and doing the whole Whatnot thing and watching them like talk to their phone. I guess in a way similar to what I do on the camera, like talk to you guys, but they're talking to their phones, opening packs, and I, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the whole Whatnot thing. I get it, but I don't get it. I don't want to bash on Whatnot too much, but I do want to bash on Whatnot. But it was just there. Like, trust me, if you knew who the Whatnot openers were, they just all like were very, very similar mannerisms. I guess it takes like a certain mindset to do that. But as you continue to walk, and then there was the MetaZoo booth, and On the second day, the MetaZoo booth had a pretty decent line to it. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if they were handing out promos or if they were doing signatures, whether it was artist or I saw Mike, like the head guy of MetaZoo, was there on the second day. I don't know if he was signing stuff for people. I didn't see Basic Trainer at all the first day. He was downstairs playing in a MetaZoo tournament. So even though you have the event going on, you still had like tournaments going on for different people. And so that's just the second day. And then I spent a lot of time like just kind of bouncing back and forth. And one of the things I realized, I did a few laps of the event while I was there. I wasn't able, like the first lap you did, you're definitely overwhelmed. You don't pick up everything. And every single time that I walked through and looked at different booths, I was able to like see something or identify something that I hadn't the first time. Whether people were still like loading different inventories, whether trades are coming in, I constantly was seeing graded cards and raw cards that I hadn't seen the first time. So that was fun because it wasn't like you just did one lap and then it's like, okay, I did my one lap. I'm going to go home. No, I just kept walking around and I kept just like searching through and, especially like for binders and stuff like that, where maybe you walked across the table the first time and somebody else was looking at that binder. So maybe you skipped that binder and, went to a different binder and stuff like that. There's a lot. There is a lot to do. There was a lot of walking on the first day. And then, obviously I knew a lot of the guys, like I said, at the Pokenomics booth. So I like, come and talk to those guys, but I didn't want to like, bother them too much because they're there for a reason. They're there because they were, trying to sell cards. And from everybody I talked to, everybody that was working a booth, everybody who was selling cards, it appeared that they were doing relatively good, meaning the buyer pool that was there was interested in what they were selling. Jake's definitely had like a very high end cabinet with some real heavy hitters in it, whether it was world cards or tropical beach, mega battle, stuff like that. Like Jake had some monster cards, and there wasn't a ton of that. There were some like FPO cards and some booths, and then obviously like big first edition cards. And we're going to talk about, you know, later that night seeing some FBO packs open. But so that kind of ends like Saturday. A lot of walking around, a lot of talking, a lot of just having fun. Saturday night, went out to dinner to a local pub. Again, just that same group from Swami's house was there. And then as soon as that was over, which the dinner we went to, where did we go? Like Long Yard, or it was like a big brew house. Obviously, like I'm a cheap date, what brew I was drinking with a beer house that has hundreds of on tap, but it was still just fun, talking there and, finding out like, people live right across the street from each other too. And well, I don't want to dox anybody, like say their real names because it is what it is. But, like you have two people at my table who live just a couple, blocks away from them, in the city they live in. And it was pretty wild to just hear that story. And yeah, the food was good. The company was good. And then as soon as we were done eating, there was like two different tables with like, I guess you call it our group. We were at one and then there was a bunch of people at the other. And then as soon as that was over, we went to the trade night. And then when we went to the trade night, which was at like, one of the hotel bars, we pull up and I just sit down with like a random table, just mainly our group, but there was just some random guy there, and I wrote down like exactly what his name is. It was Master Set Games was his name, and I never recognized him before. I guess he's a big whatnot opener. I guess he does a lot of the morning openings, very similar to like Joe Echo Base Collectibles. I guess he's like one of the biggest morning openers, Master Set Gaming. And I sit down and I'm just, bullshitting with him. And he's got just a huge like Pelican box case. And, this guy, another guy, V, who's like a good friend of mine, to the show too. And he was in the trade night. But the Master Set Game guy, he had a big Pelican box. And I was like, can I look through these? He's like, sure. And it's just like a big 4 or 5 row box. Like it's one of those big Pelican boxes. And I'm just pulling out cards and looking at them, and it's just banger after banger, but they're not in any sort of like set order or alphabetical order. They're just kind of mixed up. And he had a lot of like Japanese promo Pikachus kind of lined up on the top, but the cards in it were just all different sets. So it was exciting because every card you would flip through would be an absolute banger, but at the same time, it wouldn't be a card that you would see every day. And more importantly, because they weren't in order, you never knew what the next card was going to be. So that was a lot of fun just to kind of go through all his cards. And as he was sitting there, he had two legendary collection packs just sitting in front of him. And, me and him are just talking back and forth. And the guy V, who I also went there with, or who came and met, I shouldn't say went there with, but who met up with us later, he also was selling some legendary packs. And I was like, oh, yeah, my friend's, selling some legendary packs too. And then the guy from Master Set Games looks at me and goes, do you know what these are? And then as soon as he said that, I looked at him dead in his eyes, because anytime anybody has legendary packs in front of them and they ask you, do you know what these are? There could only be one answer to that question. So as soon as he said to me, he goes, do you know what these are? I looked at him straight in the face. And I said, those aren't fucking FPO packs, are they? And he goes, yes, they are. And I just looked at him. My face just like was in shock, right? And then, so real quick backstory for any of you guys that don't really understand what FPO are, why are they in legendary packs, or sorry, not legendary pack, legendary collection packs. One of the things was Rusty, TCA Gaming. If you're not familiar with my channel, I recommend you going back and watching the live I had with Rusty. Rusty talks about the story about how he discovered FPO packs. He was searching on eBay one day, came across, like some Charizard Blastoids cards with the 4 position only on it. He reached out to the seller. The seller who was selling on eBay was also selling a lot of Wizards products, for like whether it was Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. Usually that was an indicator for an old WotC employee. Come to find out, they were an old WotC employee. So what these 4 position only cards were, they were just like test cards, but they were legendary collection, or not legendary collection cards. They were expedition cards. So you have like, Charizard, Clefable, Blastoise, Arbok, but they're all the expedition rares. And they put them into legendary collection packs because, keep in mind, legendary collection was the set immediately before expedition. So your like last 4 sets of the WotC timeline go legendary collection, expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge. So they didn't really have the pack artwork set up yet for these expedition cards. So they were still packing them in legendary collection, but they said 4 position only on it. But they were only 5 card packs. And so when a few people in the comments asked, like, how did they know they were legendary collection packs? So I'm going to tell you the story as it was told to me. The story is definitely, there will be some questionable parts of it. And I'll tell you like when it happens. And there is definitely parts where I was like, wait a second. So the way the story was described to me by Master Set Games, the person that bought the pack, is they were just at their booth. He had his own booth there on site, and somebody walked up to him, explained that they were a former Nintendo employee and that they were taking, like asking for if anybody wanted to buy like FBO packs. So he said he had the 2 legendary collection FBO packs. Again, they're very easy to identify once they're in your hands. Yes, the wrapping is just legendary collection foil pack. You're not going to be able to see it from a distance, but once you are able to hold it and really look close, you can see how thin it was. So he had the 2, but then he also in his other hand had 5 like raw FPO cards. So the way it was explained to me is he walked to the table, put the 2 FPO legendary collection packs down, and then right next to it had the 5 FPO cards. FPO cards is not something random people just have. The way that the story was explained to him was that he was a former Nintendo employee and he was going through some of his old stuff and he found the FBO packs in a Game Boy Advance game. As soon as he said that to me, my first question was, that story doesn't make any sense, because Nintendo employees should not have FPO packs. FPO packs, if anything, should be owned by WotC employees. Legendary collection and expedition, like I just explained to you, was, one of the later sets of the WotC before Nintendo took over. Nintendo didn't take over till 2003 when, you have June 2003. That's when Ruby Sapphire came out. June 2003 was when Skyridge was released. So the timeline didn't add up for Nintendo employees to have these. So as soon as he said that to me, I just picked up one of the legendary packs and like I immediately started looking at the crimps of the pack, because I'm like, okay, something about this story is not adding up. This story sounds fake, whether it was Master Set Gaming telling me the story, or whether the person that sold the cards, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, Nintendo employees in this situation should not own these packs. Not only do we know Nintendo employees shouldn't own these packs, the man who discovered these packs, Rusty, TCA Gaming, a man who's been on my channel and literally told me the story of how he got the packs from a WotC employee. So I looked at the packs. The packs looked as legit as can be. I saw absolutely no signs of tampering on those packs. And then I picked up one of the raw FPO cards he had. Again, this is a trade night. We're at the hotel bar. It's very dark in the room. And I like slid the card out of the card saver one, which, hindsight being 2020, I definitely should not have grabbed somebody's card and like pulled it out of a card saver. I don't know what I was thinking at that time. It was probably like something really dumb to do. And if Master Set Gaming's there watching this, I am sorry I did that. But he didn't seem to care. And I pulled it out, and I like looked at the card. I didn't take it out of the penny sleeve, obviously, but I looked at the card, and then I turned my phone on because I had my flash on my phone, and I did the light test to the card, because now I'm instantly thinking like, oh my God, this dude just bought fake FPO cards. I did the light test to the card. I looked at the card. I felt the card stock. They were real. They were not fake FPO cards at all. They were real. So why the story doesn't line up, I don't know. Don't kill me. I'm just the messenger. I'm telling you how the story was told to me. Take it for what it's worth. I don't know why a Nintendo employee would own these if he was really a Nintendo employee. Don't know. Do not know. I really don't know. I personally do know of some other FPO cards that have recently surfaced. They have not hit the market yet. I've had people reach out to me. I've actually seen an FPO card now ripped in half because somebody was testing to see if it was real. Not these guys. No, they did not rip an FPO card in half. But I have now seen one with my own eyes be ripped in half, or at least photos of one being ripped in half. So there are some FPO cards trickling onto the market. How many can that really be? What is the true source of these? I don't know. But I do know that this guy who came in with the packs, who allegedly was a Nintendo employee. We have no way to like confirm nor deny this. He was shopping around offers. Now, whoever that person was, if they were shopping around offers, they did a terrible job of it, because there was a lot of people sitting at that Pokenomics section who would have made serious offers on those packs. I asked the Master Set Game guy multiple times throughout the night how much he paid for them. I asked multiple times because he got the 5 raw ones and he got the 2 packs. I asked him, if I said I asked him 69 times, I probably asked him 69 times. Like, I just kept asking. I was like, how much? How much? How much do you pay? How much do you pay? I don't know how much he paid. He said it was less. I don't want to say like what he said, but whatever the price that he did say to me was extremely under market for those, like disgustingly under market. So the price was crazy. The person who brought him in didn't shop him around enough. I guess he did shop him around to other booths, because after the fact that they bought him, there was other booths that also made offers on the packs and were maybe disappointed they didn't get them and all this stuff. The guy who sold them didn't shop them around enough. I will say that flat out. There were other tables there that I know would have made serious plays. I know Nick Old School Pokemon was there on Saturday. Dan Catch 'em All Collectibles was there. Jake was there. There were some people would have, even if they had to pool money together to buy these as like an investment, they would have. So the person that sold them did a very shitty job of it. So even hearing that, like, you know me, I'm listening to the story. There's a lot of holes in this story. Like, this might be a rattle video someday, but I'm just telling you as the story was told to me. Take it for what it's worth. So we got a Nintendo employee walks in. These packs were in a Game Boy for whatever reason, and then this guy discovered this is, again, I know what you're doing. You're sitting there, you're listening to the story, and you're saying it's BS. Listen, I'm just telling you how it was told to me. Nintendo employee walks in, finds these packs in an old, it even hurts telling the story, an old Nintendo Advance box. And then as he was pulling the box out, the packs came out. He shopped it around. He lived there like in Denver, Colorado, and he heard an event was going on. So he came in, shopped the cards around to like 100% of the tables, Probably took a pretty low price. Probably could have got more if he shopped it around more. But either way, that's where we're at. We're now to the point of Master Set Games owning the packs. And if all now let's just assume this whole story is true. Everything that was said is true. He got the buy of not just the weekend, but potentially like his lifetime. And if not his number one buy of his lifetime, I think it would be very far fetched to not say it will be one of like the top 5 to top 10 of his buys of his entire life. Like that's how good of a buy this was. Like assuming the story is all true, the dude hit not just a grand slam, it fucking the ball kept going and it just went into orbit and now it's up with the satellites. That ball is gone. Like just pretend like that baseball doesn't exist. That's how far that home run went. If all this story is true. So now I'm sitting there with him and he starts talking. He says, I'm thinking about opening these tonight. I look at him straight in the face and I'm like, what? Like, you don't want to open these packs. Like these are FBO packs. Like these are one of the rarest things in our hobby and one of the things that have been shilled up to the absolute moon. FBO packs, like Rusty had a lot to do with it. It's like, I love Rusty, but when you get super niche stuff like this, it does take like a PokeTuber to make it famous. And Rusty did it and he made it famous. But the thing is Rusty made it famous so long ago that there is no more shilling of a product like that. Like the market has already been made. Like there are so many sales of FPO cards. The sales started relatively low and now they're trickling up and they're like 10,000 plus dollars for FPO cards. Like that market, whether it started from like maybe like a little bit of a shill, the market is organic at this point, at least to a point. So the fact that he already owns 5 raw and he's thinking about opening his 2 packs, I'm like, dude, you need to really consider this. Like this probably isn't the best thing you can do. But the way he explained it to me was he did a little bit of research. And if you guys are familiar with Rusty, when Rusty opened one of his packs, there were 3 Charizards in one of his packs. And the entire population of FBO cards that exist that we know that are graded, like especially through Beckett and again, finding the Beckett Pop Report and CGC, the entire population of graded cards, the cards that are graded more than any other cards are Charizard. The cards that are well documented on film being open, the card that has the highest pull rate of any card is the Charizard. And the Charizard is also one of the most expensive cards. So FPO packs at the price he paid actually like has a net positive if you were to open it, meaning opening those cards, grading them, selling them raw is actually like you'll make money doing that. So his brain wasn't far off doing that, but still it's just there's downside risk to that too, because there is a sealed premium for packs like that, just like there's sealed premiums for anything in this hobby, with that mindset that we do know that we have a documented case of Rusty opening 3 Charizards. You'll have a lot of duplicates. And the reason why you have duplicates is you got to keep in mind that these cards were just test print stuff. They weren't made for like distribution. They didn't need to have certain pull rates. They're all non-hollows. They were just test print stuff from the WotC factory. So you'll find multiple times open up packs where you'll find like multiple of the same card. And in fact, we saw it in both packs in the second pack. So he makes a decision to open these FPO packs. For me, a lot of the people that were there, we were watching just history be made. There will be very few times, like from now until the end of my life, that an FPO pack is open, let alone for me to actually be there and witness that happen. It was a very surreal moment. I know I can say that truly for myself. And, big shout out to Master Set Gaming for being willing to open that in front of all of us. And everybody that was there, we really got to witness something very special. And if you are a true lover of Pokemon, if you are a true lover of history of cards, especially FPO, that was freaking awesome. So he opens up his first pack, and the way he explained it to me was if they open up the first pack and there is a Charizard, because again, based off of all data points that we know of FPO packs, the highest likelihood is to pull a Charizard. So if he pulled the Charizard in the first pack, they were going to leave the second pack sealed. So opens up the first pack, no Charizard. He did have 2 Blastoids, no Charizard though. So then he opens up the second pack with the expectation that hopefully he's going to pull a Charizard in the second pack. No Charizard. Pulls 2 Arbok. No Charizard. Still freaking crazy awesome experience. Probably, I bet you if you asked him, and again, Captain Hindsight and hindsight being 2020, he'll probably tell you that he wishes he maybe waited at least a day to open those, so this way he could field some offers on those sealed packs. I don't think he fielded any offers on the sealed packs, or if he did, it was probably just like a small group of people probably gave him offers, but didn't really like, you know, shout it from the mountaintops to be like, "Hey, everyone, I have FPO packs." So that was how Saturday night ended. And then, we hung out at that trade night for a little while longer, drinking beers. But this is the thing. Saturday, the thing that hurt me more than anything else was I was just freaking tired because the night before on Friday, I had told you I woke up at 4 a.m. Eastern time. And then I went to bed Friday night, which I guess would technically be Saturday morning at like 4 a.m. their time. So I was, and then 4 a.m. is technically 6 a.m. my time. So I was up for 26 hours in a row with no sleep. So I had a huge 26-hour timeline on Friday night leading up till Saturday. So Saturday, when I left the trade night, it was 2 a.m. by this point, and I was just tired, as tired as you could freaking get as a person. Like, people were saying to me, like, "Dude, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I am just tired." I was I was my body was tired. Like, there was definitely some of those younger people there, some of the younger people, all those spicy boys, you got, your retro specs and Colson and DNA and all those, and you got Thrifty TCG, all those spicy boys, like, they can do it. Well, maybe not Thrifty. I think Thrifty was feeling her age very similar to me, but staying up for all those hours, like, you feel it. You don't even feel drunk or hungover. You just feel tired. And Saturday, I was tired. So went to bed, or I left the trade night at 2 a.m., went to bed, slept from like or I went back to the hotel, took a shower, so I was in bed by like 2:33, and then I slept all the way up to like 30 minutes before the hotel stopped serving breakfast, so I got like a solid 7 hours of sleep. So come Sunday morning, like, I felt so refreshed. So now Sunday is the second day of the trade night, or the second day of the Denver Collectacon. So on Sunday, I had the plan to do the live stream, and I was very nervous. I wasn't sure how the live stream was actually going to work. I was afraid like service at the event was going to be poor and it would be way too choppy. You want to be able to hear me talk. I don't know if you guys watched that live stream, but if you didn't, I recommend you just go and give it a watch. It's an actual like walk through the entire event. And I went out just for this event. I bought like a little microphone that just attaches to your phone, and then this way people could talk directly into the phone, because by talking into that microphone, there was a lot of background noise. You got to keep in mind at an event like this, you have music playing in the background, you got crowds of people talking, you have people making deals. There's just a lot of like, background noise. So it's be very hard to do that live stream. So I had the mic, and I think it came out pretty well. I would definitely do it again. I think my ideal situation would be very hard because somebody would have to do me a solid favor, but would be for me to walk around and do the interviews more where somebody else was holding my phone so I could still be in the camera and like, you know, s- pushing the microphone so they talk and then I talk, kind of like that. Because when somebody was holding the microphone and I was asking them questions, you could hear me, but like very muffled. So that'd be the only thing I'd probably change with that. But walking through, so that was like the big plan I had. And then now by this point, I had been walking around for that full day on Saturday. I'd walked around most of the morning on Sunday. So come like the middle of the day, towards the end of the day, Nick Old School Pokemon was just at his booth, and he had a chair right next to him. I said, "Nick, I'm just gonna come sit next to you for a little while." And Nick was like, "Yeah, of course, man." So I sat next to Nick, and obviously Nick had two big cases just full of all his cards, just a ton of graded stuff. And as I was sitting there, you know, Nick was like kind of dealing with one case, and I don't know if I was like making Nick mad or not, but as people would come walk up, I'm a I'm a huge people watcher. I love like even as the simple things like going to Walmart and just like watching people just experiencing people. And like one of the crazy things about just that Pokenomics Discord area is if you walk around and you ask everybody, like, what state are you from? It was like everybody is from a different state. You just had like this, whether you have like, Mile High Pokemon and Swami, they're from the Denver area, or you got like, Nick and uh uh got Nick and Dan and Jake and me. We're all more from like the New England area. And I don't want to like say where anybody else is from again because I don't want to start doxing people. Our areas are more public, but there's a lot of other people in that group where everybody has like their own locations, and you start to look at all the states and you're like, man, you think about this hobby, like this hobby somehow is able to get all these different like-minded people from all over the country all together at one event for the same reason. It's a pretty wild thing to think about. But as I'm sitting there next to Nick, old school Pokemon, and I'd ask every single person that walked by uh, uh, his booth he had in his case. I'd ask every single person the same question. I'd say, "What are you into in Pokemon? Like, what timeline? Do you like WotC? Do you like EX? Do you like, platinum? Do you like black and white? Do you like diamond and pearl? You know, sun and moon? What are you into?" And I just wait and hear what they were saying, and then whatever they would say is, I try to point out to them a couple cards in Nick's case, or I like to just talk about the cards, just talk about the cards Nick had. I don't know, like, again, I don't know if Nick actually was, like, happy I was doing this. He didn't seem to care, but it was just fun. I like talking about the cards, but I was more interested in just hearing what people were buying. And I've heard people, like, talk about a little bit of the cards that really move are the cards that are definitely priced right. So on the low end cards, you can have like cards that are in like the 25 range to like that $200. Like I would feel like that was a sweet spot, at least from my very, very small like time sitting next to Nick, seeing what people were buying. Those were the cards they were buying. But I was also noticing another thing. People were buying low priced, high graded PSA cards. So any cards that Nick had, like that were PSA 9s or PSA 10s that were priced even lower, like let's say between 25 and $100, like Nick was really pushing those cards out. Like they were moving quick. Couple of the CGC 9.5s were like, again, really struggling. Like, Nick had from Brilliant Stars, the Umbreon, the character rare card. It was actually like one of the cards I pulled out of an ETB that I opened on my channel and did a little giveaway. He had that card graded, CGC in a 9.5. That card raw probably sells for like $20 ish. So he had it priced at a 9.5 for $30. I saw so many people walk up to his booth, ask him how much for that Umbreon, and he said $30, which is a very low price card for like what the current market is, definitely in a 9.5 in the booth. And everybody would ask, he would tell them the price, and everybody'd say, "Oh, that's pretty cheap." And then they wouldn't buy that one card. It just sat there the whole day. Now, if that was a PSA 10, I feel like it would have sold extremely quickly. Like it probably would have like just evaporated from that, booth he had. But I also noticed that, like, people didn't get into more of the niche stuff. Like, Nick had probably one of his more higher price cards, at least in the booth that I was sitting in front of, is one of the cards he had in there was the Ancient Mew, the Japanese version, but the corrected version. Now, as you know, like, or the Ancient Mew, there was a lot of different variations. I think there's, like, 5 different variations of Ancient Mew. You have the English version that came out with the movie promo, or with the oh, Pokemon movie. I'm forgetting the name of it. Not Power One, Power One, Ancient One, whatever. Came out with the Pokemon movie. You could get them in the packs. You could probably go on eBay right now and buy a sealed one for like $25. Like very cheap. Probably there's whatever, like 60 plus people watching this live right now. Out of those 60 people, probably all 60 people at least own one Ancient Mew. Very common card. But then for the Japanese version, they also had it in the movie, but they came in like a binder thing and they were for purchase. But they're the error version of the Ancient Mew. So Nintendo spelt wrong, and then Nintendo made a corrected version, but with the same hollow pattern as that error misspelt Nintendo. But then, like pretty soon afterwards, they had a corrected version with a different hollow pattern, and then there's like even Ancient Mew cards that came out with like years later with in the Japanese versions from like came out as like evolutions promos during that timeline. So like late XY. So there's a bunch of different variants, but Nick had the corrected version, but he had the very rare version. He had it priced as so. So he had it priced in his case for like $750. So that isn't a very expensive card for a card that probably a lot of people don't even really understand or know the backstory to it, or why is it even rare? Like, why is the corrected spelling in Nintendo? Why should that be worth so much more when I could go out and buy a sealed English copy for $25 to hear a price like 750? And a lot of people pointed to that card, but as soon as, you explain to them like, "Oh, hey, just so you know, like, this is the Japanese corrected version, that's got a price tag on it, $750." Like, people quickly, like, stop being interested in that card, which I found that to be pretty fascinating because, like, that super niche high-end stuff was, I think, a lot tougher to move, and that card sat in the case the whole time, and that was a card that Nick ended up bringing home with him. But all his more lower price stuff was really moving. And not only was stuff moving, Nick was very willing to do trades with people. He actually was extremely willing to do trades. Like, I was shocked at how willing he was to do trades. But yeah, I just noticed stuff. But one of the things that I noticed, because like I asked every person, like, what timeline are you into? I had three different girls come up to the booth, three different ones. And, we probably talked to a couple dozen people, but three of the girls all had the exact same answer to me. And they said, I collect cute things, which I'm fine with that because I collect niche things and I collect Raichu things. So for somebody to say they collect cute things like that, I'm not opposed to that answer. Like, I actually like that answer. I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, I like my things. A lot of you guys like your things. So, but I just thought it was weird that I heard the exact same answer from three people. So it made me start thinking like, there are a lot of cards out there that I would definitely consider to be like cute cards that could potentially be like decent plays. The same way as I think like some of these character rare cards are, good plays, like the Sleepy Pika from Brilliant Stars, or go back like a little bit before that and the Pikachu from Cosmic Eclipse, a card that was selling for $5. Or you could look at a lot of like recent Japanese promos, whether it's like the Kanazawa Pikachu, which at a time was selling for $5. Now it's probably settled at like $25 for the raw. And then in the graded, it's probably, but like these are cute cards. And Nick had a couple of those. And I was like, well, this is cute. This is cute. This is cute. And one of the girls bought three of the cards just because of that one reason. So it just shows that there's a collector for all different type of stuff. And, you know, I had one person walk up to the booth and I'll never forget this. I said, what do you collect? And he says, I collect Charmeleon cards. Out of all the Pokemon that I have never heard anybody say they are a fan of. I've heard plenty of people say they collect Charizards. Plenty of people say they, like Charmander. But for somebody to say Charmeleon, like, that's an answer you don't hear every day. And then, there's probably like a couple Charmeleon cards that like instantly go to your mind. Like, you probably got the secret rare from EX Dragon, or you probably have the secret rare from Stormfront, or even like the box topper from Team Rocket Returns. And I think Thrifty was selling a Team Rocket's Return box topper Charmeleon. Should have probably sent him to her table. I didn't even think about it at the time. But there's a couple of Pokemon that like, okay, like, I'm not a huge Charmeleon fan, but like, yeah, okay. There's definitely a couple like Charmeleon cards that really stick out, like especially like Expedition. And okay, cool. I'm fine with this. Like, listening to this, but this is one of the things when I was listening to everybody is uh old card shops said he sold that guy a Charmeleon. So that's pretty cool that he was able to sell somebody that card. But it's so fun to listen to what people are buying. And I had one guy come up to me, he said, I'm looking for a VMAX Charizard. And you know me, like, I just like, oh, we don't have that here, like, I get a little choked up because I want to like say to him, like, hey, you should probably go out and buy your own Charizard VMAX. Why don't you go grade it yourself? Like, go pick it up raw, man. But uh yeah, it's just it that was my that was one of the highlights of just the people watching, but really getting to listen to everything that people were buying. And then I would like to tell the story. Like, this was I'll give you a perfect example. So Towards the end of the event, a little kid walked up to him, real little kid, came up. He had a 7.5 Raichu, the non-hollow from Legendary Collection. And Ray, who was kind of at the booth right behind us. Ray, great guy. Really like Ray a lot. Like I had some really awesome conversations with Ray, and Ray is actually a guy that I would like to have on this channel one day and just like sit down and chat Pokemon. Like hearing Ray's backstory, hearing how he's really like diving deep into this hobby, it's really refreshing. Super great dude, super great personality. But anyways, he had like one of Nick's cards in his case, and it was just super modern Venusaur from Celebrations in a 9.5. And then the little kid wanted to trade his Raichu 7.5 non-hollow from Legendary Collection. And Nick's like, yeah, I'll do that. Let's compare the two cards. Okay. You have the Venusaur from Celebrations, which if I had to take a guess of how many Venusaurs from Celebrations exist, it's 69 million. Like it's a huge amount of those Venusaurs from Celebration exist versus the non-hollow Raichu from Legendary Collection. Now, why does the non-hollow Raichu matter? Well, Legendary Collection, you have two different theme decks. You have the Lava theme deck, which had the non-hollow Charizard, because keep in mind, Legendary Collection has three Charizards. It has the hollow, has the reverse hollow, which is the one everyone loves, and then it has the non-hollow Charizard from the Lava theme deck. But then the second theme deck that no one really ever talks about is the Turmoil theme deck. And then the rare of that card, very similar to the Charizard's, the rare of the Lava theme deck, you have the Raichu as the non-hollow rare of the Turmoil deck. So to have a little kid walk up with that card graded in a 7.5, and like a 7.5 is not a bad grade. It looked like you would expect a 7.5 to look. It had a little bit of whitening on the back, maybe had like a little pinhole dent on like the top left-hand corner. But it was just interesting to like see that card come in, a card that to me, that Turmoil Raichu and from the theme deck is a no-brainer. That's a card that I love because I think it has a cool story. It has a history to it. Like, we kind of shit on theme decks as early WotC guys because when your parents got you a theme deck, like it was already pre-sorted and you're not really going to get the cards you wanted. And now we look back on those things with like nostalgia factors, whether it's the Zach or the Zap theme deck or the Overgrowth or the Brushfire or, we look, or the 2-player starter deck, like we look back on these things with like nostalgia now, but at the time, if you wanted your mom to bring you home a Pokemon pack and she brought you home a 2-player starter deck, you were probably like disappointed as a kid. But looking back at it now as an adult who kind of looks at the history to think of like Lava theme decks and Turmoil, these Legendary Collection theme decks now are for a sealed copy. You're talking greater than $500. He traded the chase of that theme deck for a Venusaur from Celebrations. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? So, but it was funny, like, as people would come over to his booth, like, that would be, like, one of the cards I like to talk about, and then Nick had his winner cards too, like, if you haven't seen Nick's video, he won a bunch of those at auctions, like the sealed ones. They come with in, like, the sealed cellophane packs of 8 with the winner stamp on it. It's like, you got the Hitmonchan, the Electabuzz, the Mewtwo, and I know I'm missing one of them. He sold one of them. Fuck, what was the? I can't remember the fourth, but like those are the cards that are interesting, right? Like the cards that tell stories. Like those are the cards that I always wanted to talk about, but people didn't care about that. I like talk about these winter stamp ones, and then he would have like a PSA 9 Jirachi from Shining Legends, and people would be like, "Can I see that Jirachi?" And it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." It's like almost like you hand him the card, almost like disappointed in a way because what's a Jirachi, from Shining Legends versus all these other cards, but and then I got to, ask everybody, kind of like what they were selling, and sealed products sold for a lot of people too. I know Dan had a lot of, I didn't even talk about this on Friday night. So the Friday night at the Swami's trade night, me and Dan split a Japanese base set starter deck. I didn't even talk about that. So that video will probably get released either on my channel or his channel, and you'll kind of see what we pulled there. It's a very lackluster deck, but so it was pretty funny because Dan was selling that deck. He was asking $400 for it, and I said, and the Japanese, like, starter decks are different. They're not guaranteed. They're not like the 2-player starter decks for English. Like, the cards are gonna be in it, it's gonna be random. You're definitely gonna get a lot of energy cards, that's for sure. But, like, your hollow and your commons, uncommons, those are gonna be random. So, Dan was selling it for $400, and I said, "Dan, I'll make you a deal right now." We split it. And to be honest with you, he was asking $400 for it. I knew I could have offered him way less because that was his asking price and not the price he would have sold at, especially at the Swami event. But I knew Dan wasn't going to want to split it for less. I was like, listen, I'll make you a deal. Give you $200 cash right now. Me and you, we just split it. We grade everything inside of it, with the exception of maybe the energies, but any of the starters, any of the hits, we're just going to grade it. Whatever we make, we split it. So Dan said no, of course, at first, and then I got a couple of drinks in Dan, and then once I got a couple of drinks in Dan, Dan comes back up to me and he goes, "I'll do it, PK. Let's open it." So we opened it. This is not financial advice, kids, but that was a lot of fun. A little bit of peer pressure. But yeah, I forgot all about that. But anyways, Dan brought a couple of those. He brought a bunch of packs, and I want to say Dan sold out of like almost all his sealed. I saw a lot of people buying a lot of different sealed packs. It was definitely something that was moving for a lot of people. I don't know what that means, if that's like a good thing, if that's a bad thing, if people just want like the sealed packs for sealed collections, or if they already have this stuff. I don't know. It was funny too, looking at sealed pack prices as you walk through the event. Like, pack prices were pretty wildly different depending on the booth. Like, you would definitely see like one person selling, a decent pack unweighed. Unweight's tough at an event like that, but uh Alex said the P and PK stands for peer pressure. Yeah, sorry, Dan was definitely peer pressured into that. But yeah, then the old card shop, even talking to him, I know he moved a lot of different stuff. Swami had great sales. I know Swami the second night or the second day brought a lot of Marvel stuff. But yeah, it was interesting to hear what people were moving. So that pretty much brings us. So I almost did make a deal actually with Zach Jim at Pokemon. He was there. He had a pre-release Clefable and an 8. And I was really he gave me a extremely solid, like, he gave me a friend's price. I'm not gonna like disclose what that price was, but it was as fair as you can get with a price. And I should have like took him up on it, but I'd already spent so much money on this trip that I didn't want to spend. It was like over $1,000. It was between like $1,000 and $2,000 for that pre-release Clefable. So I definitely should have took him up on it, but to spend over $1,000 on a Clefable, like, I passed on it, and I regretted it on the whole flight back. I was like, you know what, I should have fucking did it. Nah, what are you gonna do? I see Poke Guardians in the chat with the super chat. Appreciate that, man. But no, it was all in all, the event was a lot of fun. So then now Sunday night there was another trade night at another hotel lobby and it was kind of like everybody's way of kind of saying goodbye to everybody. But it was still fun because I got a lot of time to I was sitting like in a little group. It was like me, directly in front of me was old school Pokemon, then the old card shop, and then to my right for, probably about an hour was Retrospecs too. And we were all chatting, and then old card shop opened up a Sandstorm pack. I know he recorded that. I know old card shop's probably going to release that Sandstorm pack opening on his channel, so I won't spoil the hit. But it was just fun talking to him, talking about Sandstorm, because Sandstorm was one of the cards that I was really going not hard. Hard's not a good example, but I bought a few Sandstorm cards while I was there. I bought like the Sandstorm, the Pikachu in reverse hollow from a random table. Swami was selling a reverse hollow Duskull. I bought his reverse hollow Duskull from Sandstorm. And then Nick Old School Pokemon was selling a PSA 9 Aerodactyl EX from Sandstorm. And I was able to get a really good price from Nick. So I actually bought that from him. So I picked, and then a couple like uncommons and common, just more bulk. I picked up a bunch of those. So it's funny because throughout the entire event, those were cards that I was looking for was EX Sandstorm. And if you don't know EX Sandstorm, it's the second set of like the Nintendo timeline. So you got Ruby Sapphire, Sandstorm, then Dragon. So Sandstorm's kind of right in the middle of it. And Sandstorm is one of those sets that is just slept on all the time. And it has awesome artwork. But more importantly, it's got like the evolutions in it. You got the Jolteon, the Flareon, the Vaporeon. Probably the Vaporeon being the weakest of the three, but still, even like the Vaporeon's like a very nice. But that's the thing. Like me and old Card Shop, we were just talking about Sandstorm and how much we both love a set like that. And he's talking about, and he thinks the same thing I do. Like we both think it's a very underrated set. But that's the thing. Like, doesn't matter who you talk to. Like everything's an underrated set. Like really, when you get into this, like we're in the niches of the niches, I guess, talking about this stuff, like the things we get excited about, like the random EX cards. And I think everybody kind of gets excited about the big hitter chase cards, the one that everybody talks about, but it's the cards that no one talks about. Those are the cards that really like get me excited. So to sit around all these people and just talk about anything, any card, and shout out to Retrospecs. Like he had some really good pickups too. And I don't know if he's gonna make videos, but like he got some really good, like I just say promo cards. I don't want to like blow up his spot, but he got some really good cards and really nichey type cards from a nice timeline. Like, and he was able to do it just by walking around and pick and finding it from a vendor and then working out like dude hit a home run again. Another guy who just had an awesome experience, and he was just sitting right to the right of me. So, and then Nick was just sitting there, and then as you're talking about all these sets, like it's just fun to listen because everybody has their own little thoughts, right? Like maybe the card I like isn't the card that Nick likes, and maybe not the card that Josh likes, or maybe not the card that Retro likes. But Retro will talk about the card he likes, and then Josh will talk about the card he likes, and Nick will talk about the card he likes. So you'll hear about like one set that no one ever talks about, and something we feel is underrated, so underrated that old Card Shop brought a pack to open just because he wants to experience. It wasn't old, it was just something he did for himself. Very similar to the way I feel about like EX Power Keepers. And, I don't ever talk about like EX Power Keepers, but even talking to Retro, who was sitting next to me, like at the event, Retro goes, "Oh, well, you don't really like Japanese cards, do you?" And I was like, "Well, Retro, like my official stance is always I don't love Japanese cards, but I explained it to him this way. I said, Retro, night I opened up a Power Keepers pack. The Japanese version of Power Keepers isn't World Championship cards. It's like World Championship packs. Not like the theme decks everyone thinks that have like the World Championship like stamp backs like we think of English. No, not like that. It's World Champion packs. And they're were only available at like certain tournament events in Japan, and there was 5 of them scheduled, and 3 of the 5 of them got canceled due to bomb threats being called into the event. So to find like the Japanese equivalent of Power Keepers cards is very rare, and the chases and pretty much all the cards from those packs sell for extreme premiums. And if you want to go find one of those World Championship packs, like the Power Keepers Japanese equivalents, and you just want to go find one sealed, it's extremely expensive. Or if you want to just probably go look for an empty pack, I wouldn't be surprised if just the foil pack that is extremely expensive. Because like I said, it was only a distributed like 2 out of 5 events. But like as I was talking to Retro, I'm like, that's how I feel about Japanese cards. Like I don't do it on like a public thing, but trust me, I care about this stuff. So just to listen to these guys talk about everything, and man, the amount of like knowledge some people have too is next level. Like talking to Jake, and I picked up a couple Rumble cards there, and Jake was telling me he's graded close to 80 of them. Like that's a 16 card set. He had, and he said he's opened up a few of them. And then talking to Dan said he opened up one of them. So to grade 80 of them, that's at a minimum, like 4 he opened, and maybe he picked up some raw too. But it's just interesting. And then like to have a little nichier conversation, just just on Rumble about how straight out of a pack, they're pretty bad condition, you know? And Jake said he's graded close to 80 of them, and the highest grade he's ever got is a 9. And then it was funny because Jake also sold a Rumble card while we were there. He sold the what did he sell? He sold the Gyarados, I think. He sold the Gyarados, and he sold it to another person that was there, like, in our group. It's like all this little stuff, like, to anybody else listening to this stuff, it's just like, "Why do you care about all this?" But it's so refreshing to be around about the stuff you care about. It was fun. I got there's no bad parts of the night of the entire trip. I can't say one bad thing about a single person that was there. Like, it was fun, and just even at the trade night, like, talking to Mile High Pokemon, after the FPO packs were open, talking into his fiancée, he went to school near where I live, so we were talking about, like, local restaurants and stuff like that, and just talking about experiences, and, he's somebody now who I consider, like, a good friend, and I can say that about so many people. Like, I didn't meet one person there that I didn't like. Like, I would have hung out with any person individually, like, as long as, like, the event lasted, like, every single person was good, which brings us to, like, the second part of the title of this video is just the community, like, this community is freaking great, and it's gonna take something monumentally earth-shattering to, like, destroy this community and destroy, like, what we've made, and, like, it's refreshing, and then yeah. Then even, like, on the second day, like, meeting Chief Keen too, I think I saw him earlier in the chat too, and just there's so many people. Ugh, yeah, it was a lot of fun, guys. I would I'd do it again in a heartbeat. No matter how tired I was, no matter how many hours I stayed up, it was worth it. So now I wanna go into one of the other topics that I had for today was I don't know if you guys got to, watch it, but, PokeRev did his Deoxys box break. Deoxys is one of those memes, right? Like, Deoxys, it has cool reverse hollows. It has cool stamps, like, just like Deoxys has cool stamps and Dragon Frontiers and Unseen Forces and Power Keepers, like, those stamps are cool. But if you don't pull a gold star from Deoxys, it is painful. So, in Pokerev's break, his packs were he was asking $1,000 a pack. So, 36,000 for a booster box, which honestly, that's not a terrible price for Deoxys. But this is the thing. To open Deoxys, that is a terrible price because the cards that are available to pull are so bad. Like, the EXs are terrible. Like, for EXs, you have, like there's, like, the Crobats in there. I guess the Salamence would probably be the best EX, but with the exception of the gold stars, like, you have Latias, and then the Rayquaza gold star. And there was one person in his break opened up 7 booster packs. That means that somebody in his break decided to spend $7,000 to get into Rev's Deoxys box break. He did pull one EX, and I do wanna say that he actually did pull the Salamence EX. I wanna say that was his pull. I think one of his hollows he pulled was, like, the Slay King, the one where he's laying down, which ironically, I talked about, like, super recently, like, within the last month in one of my lives because I confused that Slay King for a different one, and that was, like, one of the other hollows he pulled, and he pulled, like, a bunch of non-hollows. His value he pulled out of that pack was out for $7,000, like, it was painful to watch, but this, like, is this weird thing where who the hell is spending $7,000 to pull one Salamence EX from, Deoxys? Because that's the thing, that's why we talk about Deoxys, about how ridiculous it is to open because the expected value, it's the ultimate lotto, right? Like, to pull the Rayquaza Gold Star, just to pull 1 gold star alone, you're looking at 1 in every 2 booster boxes. But then because you have 3 gold stars, that means really your chances of pulling 1 gold star that you're looking for and not the other 2 means your chances are about 1 out of every 6 booster box. That's 1 out of every case. That is an extremely, extremely high risk, and even at $1,000 to pull the Latios and Latios, yeah, you'll probably do okay, but it's not like you're just gonna be like, may be a millionaire too. Does that make sense? So to watch somebody spend $7,000 and pull like one Salamence EX, it was like, ooh. And it's funny too because on one of the, the podcasts with myself, Rattle, and Ryan, one of the episodes that Rev joined, I asked him, I said, have you ever opened? And I named a couple booster boxes, and the two of the booster boxes I mentioned was Skyridge and Deoxys. And during that live, it was very funny because Rev literally went out of his way to say his exact words were something along the lines like, "It's funny you bring up Deoxys because it's such a well, first of all, it's a very expensive set, but the chances of pulling something very good is very low." Like, he even talked about that during my live because he's very aware, just like everybody's aware. So, it was like it's a lot of fun to watch a box break like that. I love all Rev's vintage breaks. Like, n none of them are bad, but, yeah, it was painful to watch. So, I wanted to talk about that, and then I also want to talk about, yeah, some of the upcoming videos I have on my stream. So I got my PSA, one of my $18 tiers is finally coming back, but that $18 tier had a lot of the cross grades I did, a lot of the slabs I cracked sent to PSA. So we're gonna see if I was right or if I was wrong because I had a lot of people in my comment section telling me I was wrong, especially in some of my hit videos. So I haven't looked at the grades yet. I did get the email form, so maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, so that's one video that's coming back, but also in that same $18 submission is if you guys are not new to this channel, when I was at the Leonhardt pop-up shop, from my vintage pack, I did pull, the Mewtwo from base set, and that card was in the submission, so we'll be able to see what that card graded. We may never know what Basic Trainer's Charizard graded because Basic Trainer hasn't opened the cardboard box that was sent back to him from PSA, but, it was, uh it was a lot of fun. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top of the chat. Let's see. If there's any questions, now's your time to ask them. Sorry, guys. I know that was a little bit of a long-winded rant on just my whole experience at the Leonhardt, or at the Denver Collectacon. I can't believe I said Leonhardt pop-up shop because I'm thinking of Basic Trainers Charizard. But yeah, I'll try to answer any questions, or if there's any of you guys that was there. So I see we got Drew Chevals. I met Chevals there. That was I got to actually like swap numbers with Chevals, so that was fun. He's not allowed to give out my number to anybody, so nobody asked him for it. But he was one of the people I was looking forward to, you know, meeting in person, and he's one of my mods. And trust me, I never would have made him a mod if he wasn't somebody I really like. So just to get to meet him in person, shake his hand, have a quick conversation with him, like you just can't put a price on that. Like, it's freaking awesome. And then Chief Keen was there. That was good. It was good to see him too. Uh, and then, even some people that were, there, I took photos with like, one guy who was there who recognized me from my channel, just walking through the floor and stuff. And it's just, you can't, you can't equate it really. You can't like really truly put it into words. Like, there's a way that you have to be there. Um, the Mexican, I don't know about that. Um, God. Oh yeah, yep. Tennis Wolf was there. I could barely see my screen. Yeah, I see Colson was there. He was there. People were saying I was a beer pong, or I was a demon on the beer pong table. I was a demon at the beginning until I crushed too many of these. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I haven't played beer pong in a while, but it's like riding a bike. You never forget. I see Professor Oaks or Felipe de Sosa's in here. Professor Oaks in this chat. Professor Oak, your name definitely got brought up at Swami's house. Definitely got brought up a couple times over the weekend. You were definitely, you were sorely missed there. There was a lot of people wish you were there. Uh, yeah, Tennis Wolf said So much fun. Yeah, Tennis Wolf. It was fun meeting him too. And like Tennis Wolf is somebody that I never met in person, but a name that I had seen in chats more times than I could count. So it's again, it's this weird thing too, where when I got to meet him for the first time, like you could finally put a face to a name too. Once you put a face to a name, like now when I read the name Tennis Wolf, like I immediately like see his face in my brain. Like it's pretty awesome. And then we see Basic Trainer in the chat. It was fun to see Basic Trainer. I always have fun. And at the end of the night, he was playing MetaZoo with Ivy. I don't know how I feel about that, and playing MetaZoo. I'm just should have been playing Pokemon Basic. And then all day Saturday is playing MetaZoo again. Don't play MetaZoo Basic. Pokemon. Pokemon. And I may or may not have opened up a pack of MetaZoo in a pack battle with Basic Trainer. Luckily, if that video does exist, it exists solely on my phone, so I don't know if that video will ever make the light of day. Maybe it will, but if I did pull cards, I had Basic sign, I had Ivy sign one, but no, it was fun to see those guys. And then yeah, Pokemon Classics, we had a great time there. Uh, let's see. We got John Fell said, what he said Rock almost bought a booster box of Harry Potter from him to hand out packs at Denver. So this is the thing too. Not Mason. Jake had brought a box of Harry Potter on Friday night at Swami's trade event, and then Jake said, "Anybody want to buy packs?" I said, "Jake, how much do you want for these packs?" And Jake goes, "I don't know. Give me $15." I said, "Well, here's 20 from me, and here's 20 from Swami." So we always talk about like how people are ridiculous buying packs from like whatnot streamers because they're paying more money. I literally had somebody tell me $15 a pack and I gave them $40 for two. So, and it was funny because me and Jake actually talked about that like one of the following nights. Like maybe that kind of puts it a little bit into perspective. Like people want to buy packs, but I bought one pack for myself, one pack for Swami, and I pulled, I don't know, maybe I pulled something. I pulled nothing. I left my cards right on the table there. I said, anybody want these cards? You could just have them. And I want to say Swami might have did the same thing, but I wanted nothing to do with Harry Potter cards. It was fun to open. It was fun to just be part of that experience with everybody opening. But my God, my man Rock Pokemon was on a Harry Potter kick. He was on a bender. That dude was opening up packs left and right, especially at the old card shop, was selling some too. Rock was just opening. He was opening up like a fiend. And then yeah, that was pretty crazy. Uh let's see. Yeah. Pokemon Classic says it was so much fun. Oh yeah, yep. And I got to meet the Zard Hunter in person too. That was fun. He was trying to move some cards. I want to say, was it the Zard Hunter who I think it was a Zard Hunter. He picked up like a lot of like other grading card companies and trying to crack those slabs to make some plays there. I want to say that was who did that, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was again, Zard Hunter is another name that I'm super familiar with that I've seen in a lot of chats. To get to see him in person was a lot of fun. Yeah, Australian Blastoise. So his Australian Blastoise, me and Chevals were actually talking about you. So you were there in spirit on Friday night. Uh, yep. So Mertz says, was great to meet you. Really enjoyed dinner with you and Matt. You're great dudes. Yeah. No, Mertz, you're definitely one of my highlights of the trip, man. Like I would say you're probably one of the people that I hung out with more than anybody else, at least, walking the floor and stuff like that. Like you are just, he's a good dude. He was a lot of fun. And it's weird, like he's one of those people now he's gonna be like one of my friends forever in this hobby. And no, it's funny to listen to like, where he lives, where some other people live. And I think it just I don't know how to explain it. It was just fun. But yeah, he was one of my highlights of the trip and one of the people I definitely like spent a lot of time with just walking the floor. and just walking the floor with people, that means a lot to me too. So, uh, let's see. Uh, yeah, old card shop said great weekend. Uh, let's see. The old card shop says Chevals is more handsome and his voice is more addicted in person. He's got that French accent. That's why. Old card shop must be a sucker for accents. Uh, yeah, but there's a lot of people, and this is the thing. We sat down for a while too, and we were talking about like all the people we wish could have been there, and it was funny. Like I forget who I was talking to, but the names we were listing, we were up to like 20 people we were wishing were there, meaning there's that many people still in this community. So even though I think Denver was a lot of fun, I don't think Denver is the end all be all of this hobby, of this experience. I think there is a very strong likelihood that Denver is easily repeatable. Maybe not every single person that was at Denver is able to attend another event, but a Denver like experience, I think, is extremely possible. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Yeah, let's see. Mertz. It's funny because Mertz doesn't usually chat that often, so to actually see him chatting in the chat makes me happy. Uh, so let's see. Roy in the chat. I know I got to meet Ray though, but Ray was a lot of fun. Uh, let's see. Yeah, this is a problem. Is because I have my camera angle here and it's like sitting on my monitor. It's so far away that I don't know how to like make this closer. I can like move my mic. I'm sorry. Uh, Fresh Tat said if I, he meet Fresh Tat says if he meets PK in person, we're doing the prayer together. Yeah. It's funny because Rattle always gives shit. He says all like the hype beast always do the prayer thing, but like I do it by accident all the time. So it's like become a meme of my channel is to do this. Uh yeah. Chill Phil, good to see you in the chat. Uh Fresh Tat said, "Did PK get compromised by CGC?" We're gonna find out. I got my return coming back from PSA. It's got a lot of those CGC cards I cracked. We're gonna see what happens. Uh, Kevin Clare said, "Basic, did you get PK to open up some MetaZoo?" He might have. Uh, oh yeah, and that's it too. Old Card Shop said, "Holding the Pony Chew increased his net worth." And Basic did bring the Pony Chew. It did sneak into one of the uh displays, especially when I was walking around doing the live stream. The Pony Chew definitely made an appearance. And then Mason from Cardinal Game and said he gave it his seal of approval that it is in fact a real card. Uh, Pokemon Classic says life goal to shoot an open mouth thumbnail with Rattle. Uh, yeah, they're saying Yard House was the name of where we went to eat. That's right. Let's see. Yeah, it's hard. I'm just gonna try to like scroll through this chat a little bit faster. I might skip some stuff, but yeah. All right. I just wanted to do this live. I wanted to like kind of, put into the histories of the internet, like how my experiences were. Because I do use this channel for two things. One, I like to talk to you guys. I like to just talk about the hobby, but I like to do this channel in maybe a little selfish reason is that in a way it acts as a little time capsule for me. So maybe in the future I could go back and watch this video and listen to myself and maybe remember some of the experiences that maybe I forgot, or maybe at least to hear the timeline of how stuff played out and how much fun it was. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The memories that were made, the friendships that were made, can't put a price on that. Like I wouldn't change a thing. It was so much fun. Getting to meet these people that I have grown to like this is the thing too is in this hobby, I think there's people you like, but there's people you respect too. And, to a lot of these people that I truly respect in the hobby, the plays they make, like the personalities they have, the integrity they have, like the moves that they're making. Like I respect so many of the little things that they do that it's it's very surreal to meet these people in person. And it just it's one more layer of this hobby. And this hobby is so vast and so great. And we talk about this hobby on a very different level than the majority of the people out there. But that's it. It's the people that make this hobby. And I'm hoping this is just one of many. And for everybody else I met out there, for every person I had a conversation with, for every person who I shook their hand or talked about Pokemon or had a beer with or, you know, walked around with or talked to or whatever. I gotta thank every single one of you guys. You guys are what makes this hobby so freaking amazing. And if it wasn't for you guys, like this channel doesn't exist. Like the amount of effort I put into this hobby would be meaningless. And you guys are what keeps this going. And this is definitely just the future. Or this is not this is not the end to anything. It's gonna take a act of God to make this hobby die for me at this point. Like I am so super engaged, so excited. Like every day I get to wake up to just the future. It's this hobby is great and it's because of you guys. But with that said, appreciate every single one of you guys. Listen, if you made it to the end of this video, and I don't know how you did it, or if you made it to the end of this live stream and you're still in the chat, and you haven't hit the like button at this point, there's nothing I could do. But no guys, I appreciate every single one of you guys. And as always, I'll catch you on the next video.